Hi, so something a little bit different here. Korg little bits. So the kit, default kit comes with a 4-step sequencer, oscillator and a bunch of other parts, and you can use it to make some interesting noises. Not, studio quality, of course, but great for experimenting, and that's really what I'm interested in. As far as all kinds of synthesizers and all kinds of electronic stuff is concerned, is experimentation. These are perfect for that. Also has the advantage that they're pretty cheap, right? So you can pick up a module, say for 10, 15, 20 bucks. So, adding modules into this, again, it's not Eurorack, folks, but it's fun to play with, and the price point, at least for me, is good. So I'm going to go through how to use the sequencer briefly, and then I'm going to bring in another 4-step sequencer. We're going to do an 8-bit sequencer, so that's roughly what this is. So if I connect the power, I've got a simple 4-step sequence running, and I can change these. Change the pitch of the oscillator, change the tempo, and so on. And that gets annoying pretty quickly, so let's turn that off for now. So now, one way I could do this, right, so another 4-step sequencer model. So I bought this separately. The kit only comes with one of these. I bought this separately. So one thing that we can do is, don't know if you can see this here, but it's got a trigger output on here. So what we could try to do is try to run the trigger output from 1 and use it to trigger the second 4-step sequencer. So sure, let's give that a try. I'll separate this from this. I'm going to take my trigger out from this one, and I'm going to plug it into this module. And this has 2 settings, so you can either clock it internally if that switch is down, or you can clock it externally if that switch is up. So I'm going to leave that switch up. Like that. Okay, so I could connect these 2 things. We can see them, and now you can see they're running. Right, they're both running in sequence and step. But I need somehow to get the signal from there to my oscillator, so I'm going to use a mixer for that. Let's turn this off for a sec. So put one of my mixer inputs into one of my mixer inputs into another. And then the output from the mixer, I'm going to stick into my oscillator like that. So now basically what we're doing is we're taking these 2 signals and we're summing them together, right, to drive the oscillators. Okay, so let's have a look at that, see what that sounds like. So, okay, so the problem is now they're both triggering at the same time. Right, which is not really what I want. What I'm going to want for these to do is for them to alternate. So for it to play 1 from here, then 1 from here, then 1 from here, then 1 from here, then 1 from here, and so on until I get to the end and then loop back. Right, so the way that I can do that is I can use this thing. And here again, this is something I bought separately from the Korg kit. You can buy these things individually. I don't think it was very expensive. It's an inverter. All right, so what this will do is, so the sequencers trigger typically on a high going pulse or on a low going pulse, right? So you've got the trigger for this thing constantly, clocking up and down, right? And if both of these trigger inputs are in the same sense, then they're going to both clock at the same time, right? But you can use this inverter to flip one of them so that it's getting the effect that I want, right? It's going to trigger one and then trigger the other, right? So let's try that. Let's put that in there. All right, so now this is getting the inverted trigger input. Let's see how that sounds. That's a little bit better. There's still one problem though, so we can probably hear, let's turn the oscillator on. So still one problem here, right? So they're not stepping evenly, right? They're going da 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 da. Okay, so to solve that problem, I need to use another little module that I've got here. So this is a pulse module. So the reason they're not clocking together is that the evidently the pulse generator, sorry, the clock generator from this thing is either on for a longer time than it's off, or off for a longer time than it's on. So the rising and falling edges are not happening at even intervals, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to use this thing. So this is a pulse module. Again, this is a separate module that I bought. It's not included in the core kit. And instead of clocking this thing with the clock that's inside of the sequencer, I'm going to switch this to external. So put that switch up, and I'm going to use this pulse generator to generate my clock signal. So the way I'm going to do that is split this. As you can probably tell, I bought a few more splitters than were included in this default set as well. So I'm going to put one output from the pulse into my inverter, and I'm going to put the other output from my pulse into my straight into my second sequencer. All right, so let's try that. So now the frequency of this thing is being controlled by the pulse, and this has a much more even mark to space ratio, so it's stepping these things on time, as hopefully you can hear. Right, and again, it gets annoying sort of fairly quickly, so let's turn that off. Okay, so basically achieved what I wanted to achieve, right? So I've got an 8-step sequence, so let's show you that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so it's given me pretty much what I want. So I could do some other stuff to this. So for example, if I want to drive a filter in an envelope, so I've got an envelope here and a filter, and all I've done is I've wired up the output from the envelope so that I get my frequency, my tone going into my filter, and also the output from the envelope is going to trigger the filter as well. So you'll hear what that sounds like in just a sec. So let's put that here. Put that in line with my speaker. Gosh, this is all getting a bit big. So hopefully you can still see my signal flow here. So I've got pulse, inverter, driving the two sequencers through output from the sequences is mixed into my oscillator. Then I've got the attack decay envelope generator running into my filter and then into my output. So I have a tendency to follow these things down the rabbit hole. The other thing I need is this thing. Now to explain this, I need a way to make to trigger the envelope and to trigger the filter on every step. And as I've got it, let's see if I can demonstrate this. Yeah. So as I've got it at the moment, there's nothing triggering that. What I can do is, let's find myself another splitter. What I can do with this is, if I split my pulse and I send one part to my sequencers and another one to this, and now I'm triggering the ADSR, right? Actually, it seems to work pretty fine without that. Let's see if I slow it down, if it still works. Oh, okay, well that's a pleasant surprise. What I thought I was going to have to do is use a latch, which basically acts as a clock divider to make sure I'm triggering my envelope and filter in time, but it seems that that's working pretty fine without it. Okay, that's about it. So 8-step sequencer with korg little bits. Like I say, some extra parts required. Pretty cheap, loads of fun. Thanks for watching.